My name's Martin Baker from the Corporate Learning Consortium, and we're here to talk to you about Toolkit. I'd just like to introduce you to my colleague Ben. Ben's going to be doing the main part of the presentation, and he's purposely standing behind here because he's wearing shorts, and none of you know that. Right, okay. We've sponsored a report, and I don't know whether anybody's seen this. Can I have a show of hands as to who's read the report? So a few people. So this is a report that's been created by Towards Maturity, and we're founding ambassadors Towards Maturities, and so this is something that we decided to do a while ago, and Towards Maturity have been collecting data over the last few years around 2010. We've teamed up with them, and we use their benchmarking and their philosophy around supporting the use of learning technologies within all of our members. And we have quarterly members meetings where we then run workshops based on some of that data. Obviously, Charles Jennings being the major name in the country around 2010, we're working with him too to look at how we can then work with our content here, the Toolkit for Managers, and how we can then put it in front of managers at that time of need, which is when it's most effective. So without stealing his thunder, I'm going to pass over now to Ben.
From the research, today's L&D leaders want to deliver high performance. We know this to be a fact. 80% want to drive business innovation, 94% want to improve productivity. You can see the rest of the numbers there. You don't need me to spell them out for you. This research into the learning lives of managers reveals that they want fast and easy access to resources to solve their problems on a day-to-day basis. This is where the Toolkit fits really nicely and really does help support the 70 of the 70-20-10 philosophy, performance support within the workflow. I'd like to look at a real-life scenario. I did say to Martin I'd like to use my previous work experience as a retail manager and bring something real and relevant and tell a story. Martin said, don't do that, they'll think you're making it up and they'll think you're trying to sell them something. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't know. But I did used to work in retail management, and in all seriousness, if I had a resource like this then, it would have made me a lot more effective. I'm not saying I'll still be there now, but it would have made me a lot more effective. For the purposes of this demonstration, if you can all imagine a scenario where some of your managers or leaders, or indeed yourselves, are in the day-to-day workflow, something that crops up quite a lot is a performance management review, sometime during the day. Now, there's no time to go on a traditional course or get support from L&D in terms of a 45-minute e-learning module. You've got your day-to-day job to do, but you need some additional support within the workflow. This is where the Toolkit fits in really, really nicely and neatly, and I'll just demonstrate how in a couple of clicks. So within 2 clicks, I've brought up conflict management, because obviously this performance review potentially could not go very well. Some of them don't. And we can see that there's 21 items here to look at and gain some information from to help you with this type of scenario in the workplace. Down the left-hand side, there's different categories. People like to learn in different ways. The Toolkit really does give you the ability to do that. Some people like to learn with video, some people like audio. I particularly get a lot out of a good old infographic. And I know that first one's an infographic because I use it quite a lot. Some initial things to look at on the right-hand side at the top. It's roughly going to take 8 minutes to digest this piece of information. And you can share it and like it within your Toolkit fraternity, within the organisation. You can also download it for use at a later date when you may not be online. And perhaps most interestingly and most useful is the bookmark facility. So you can start to build up your own learning playlist or learning library and reference the material at a later date if you think it's something that's of use. Now, what we're really hoping with the Toolkit is that in the 5 to 10 minutes you're able to take out of your busy day to make sure that you can deliver a great performance review. There's going to be 4 or 5 key takeaways. that you'll be able to implement in that performance review. Even if it's something as simple as lack of role clarity, it's just asking the question that, does this person really know the job that they're doing properly? Are we being fair? Anything that provokes a thought that may allow the bigger picture to be seen. So we're really hoping in a couple of hours' time, when you deliver that performance review or your managers deliver that performance review, they're going to be able to remember some of these key helpful topics, deliver a great performance review for the person on the other end of it as well. They're going to feel a little bit better about things, hopefully, than if this hadn't been looked at and used. Therefore, the organisation as a whole is going to improve. And I think that's probably the key takeaway, summing up the toolkit. It's not so much about creating great learners, it's more interested in trying to create great performers. So it's able to help people when they need it most, just in time, bite-sized learning in the workflow. If we go back to the home page here, you notice the Spotlight On section. Now, this can be used to drive an organisational message across the course of the year. So you could either give us a diary of events or topics that you would like covering, or you can do it yourself. And it pushes out a message every Monday to highlight that particular topic. So it may be that it's appraisals time of year or budget time of year. You can steer people and drive people to content that's going to help them at that particular time of year deliver what they need to for the organisation. Moving down the page, there's a host of featured content, always shows how long roughly in duration it's going to take, and also what type of delivery method it is, whether it's video, infographic, self-assessment. And then this section here, the most popular, it's quite interesting but also quite useful. It's highlighting what other people in the organisation are looking at. So great to keep you on trend and on message with what your colleagues are looking at. Really, really nice, really useful. But perhaps more importantly, it can act as a bit of an early warning system. So if there's certain topics that keep being pushed through there, as has happened with some of our clients, they're able to identify at a relatively early stage and then maybe do a specific group-wide intervention and capture everything in one go. That certainly happens regularly within the organisations that use this. So a pretty useful and pretty neat feature to have. Then towards the bottom, there's content again that gets pushed towards you related to what you last read. So it's constantly striving to keep you up to date with things that may be relevant to you. And in terms of the engagement piece, I suppose, the Spotlight On section really does help with that, aligned to our quarterly face-to-face seminars that we provide and invite all of our members to. Help share best practice with other people within L&D, people who want to get the best out of it. And at that point, I'd just like to invite Martin back in for any questions that may come from the audience, and thank you for listening to me ramble.
Well, we've got a couple of things. One is the report that we can send you. We've also done an action plan for 2010. So I don't know whether anybody were involved in a session we ran in April where we had about 150 people, and we ran a seminar on what is 2010 with Charles and Laura at Towards Maturity to launch the report. And we broke everybody into workshops to look at how and some practical tools and practical things that they're actually doing within their organisations now. And so we created that as an infographic as well. If anybody wants to have a copy of that, then come and see us over at the stand. Any questions, any comments and feedback about what you've seen about how that might work within your organisations? Okay, so where does the content come from? One thing, the content is put together. We have a team of editors and journalists who, they've got links into business schools, so you'll see articles from Harvard. They've got links into publishers. So if somebody like Dave Ulrich publishes a new book, we'll interview him, save that as an audio, and then load it up as a podcast. If you've got your own content, then you can feed that into this same platform. So as an example, we've just worked with an organization who have got a series of 2 to 3 minute videos of the world's best leaders. We're now starting to integrate that into this platform, but if you've got your own content that you want to put in there, then you can do that as well. It'd be fully branded. We've branded it Toolkit for Managers because we feel that's what it does. It doesn't have to be available only to managers. So we've got some organizations who are just branding it Toolkit, and the way the license works is you buy a license for the number of managers, but then you make it freely available to everybody within the organization, not just that management population. So can you change what different people would see? There's a couple of things. What we don't do is we don't customize it to individuals. So I've seen with other platforms that you can customize depending on, say, job role. We don't do that because we're making everything available. But what you can do is you can create specific sections. So you see across the top, you've got 4 drop-downs where you could add your own at the end that would be new manager or something like that. And then you can populate that with content that's already here, but it might be content that you've created yourselves or you've brought in yourselves. It's about performance support. It's about me as a manager sitting at my desk. I need some help. Where can I go to get that help? And I can pull in a checklist. What's amazed me is the number of people who are using this as a product are saying, can you create learning plans or learning pathways? And we're saying, no, it goes completely against what this is about. It's about, I need help in a certain area. Personally, I like checklists. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to download a checklist. But the development team at the moment is they're looking at creating 20-minute pathways that relate to each subject area. And just, everybody here, what does everybody think about that? There's a performance support tool that, are we trying to turn it into something that's more linear? Does that sound good or bad? So it's how as individuals we go in there and it's how do we get into your managers, into their heads, I need some help, we want to go here, and that's where the spotlight and the engagement engine that Ben was talking about, these different levels of, we want to get into your manager's heads where they think, what, this is going to help me, as opposed to, this is just another, online product that HR provided us with. Where does it sit physically? Okay, so it's a website, if you like. We don't recommend that you only put it on your LMS. So you can put it on your LMS, and so you can then drive people through your LMS. But we also recommend that any other initiatives that you're running within the organization, you start linking it to this. So if you're running a leadership program, then use some of this content as part of that leadership program. It may be pre-work, it may be post-work. You could use some of the assessments and some of the exercises that are in here as part of those programs. And the successful organizations are, they're having access up here in their LMS, but also they're having links, to other areas of the intranet. And by using single sign-on, once they've signed into their desktop, then they can access this in all the different ways. The site's fully responsive, so you can use it on your desktop, on your iPad, on your iPhone. It's funny how the term mobile learning is disappearing. We're now just assuming that everything's responsive, so it has to be responsive. There are certain things that work better on a phone. The audio and the video work brilliantly on the phone, which is why we're integrating more and more video. You do need to have an online collection, although most of the content you can download to look at. If you're going to be on a tube, then you can download it and look at it straight off your iPad or your iPhone. Okay, if there are no more questions, so I'd say thanks very much for listening. If you want a copy of the report or access to actually have a look at the toolkit, then come and give us your details, and then we can set you up and we'll send you the information as required. And we're just here on the right-hand side, number 23. Thank you.